Find the perfect ride for you today with the New Year New Ride sales event at Guam Auto Spot. Get behind the wheel of the 2024 Outlander Sport starting at just $22,995 or only $156 per paycheck. Visit GuamAutospot.com or call 671-478-AUTO.
Head on over to Cold Stone on this hot day for that classic soda shop feel but make it ice cream. Try Cold Stone Guam's new limited time creation and float today. That's the root beer revival creation with root beer ice cream, chocolate chips, caramel, and whipped topping. Or go with the float with root beer ice cream, root beer, whipped topping, and a maraschino cherry. Only here for a limited time, so visit them at their mall and GPO locations today. Cold Stone Creamery, the ultimate ice cream experience.
Buy fuel, get Wendy's. Drive to your nearest 76 Circle K and get free Wendy's. Yes, free. Fuel up with $30 and score your choice of a 6-piece crispy chicken nuggets or a juicy junior cheeseburger deluxe. Fresh, hot, and packed with flavor. But hurry, quantities are limited and this delicious deal won't last long. So hit the road to 76 Circle K, fuel up, and get Wendy's free before it's gone.
You or someone you know looking for a job? Well, Sentinel Security is hiring and they're offering starting pay between $10 to $15 an hour, and they'll train you too. Email them today that you're interested at sentinelsolutionsguam@gmail.com. Sentinel Security, Guam's most reliable security solution for your home and your business. Kickstart your day with one of Wendy's Guam's breakfast faves, the morning melt panini. Breakfast burrito or sausage, egg, and cheese English muffin. Your mornings just got delicious, so head to Wendy's for breakfast from 6 to 10:30 in the morning on weekdays and from 6 to 11 a.m. on weekends.
Kandit News is brought to you by 76 Circle K Guam.
Good evening, my dear friends. It is 7:58 p.m. on Wednesday, August 20, 2025. My name is Troy Torres. Thank you so Troy Torres. I ever since I was a kid, I've had a problem enunciating my own name, especially my last name. I'm not very good at saying my last name. And every now and then my mouth or the way I enunciate, the way I speak pronounces my first name as Troy. My name is Troy Torres with Kandit News. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Good evening, Mark Anthony, Irene, and Nettie. I appreciate you all so much. God bless you. Good evening, Brother Brennan, and all of you who are watching live and all of you who will watch the replay of this. Now, this subject, it does not particularly concern me. I honestly don't care. I mean, I care about our economy. I care about our fiscal position. But aside from the tax relief that we're likely going to see from this current legislature when the budget passes and the governor vetoes it and the legislature overrides the budget veto. Aside from the tax cut, there is, I don't want to say the significance, the wrong word. There's nothing earth shaking about this current budget process. It's not like, good evening, Pilar, my sister. Thank you so much for joining. It's not like plate tectonics are moving in the government of Guam and for the economy as a result of this budget, with the exception of the tax cut and the consequences, both fiscal and economic, from the tax cut. And we can debate that all day long. But more so, the reason I'm less interested in what's going on over at the legislature is because I'm far more interested in the Tenorio corruption case and in our investigative work into the contracts Charissa Tenorio and Frankie Roslin have been getting, how much they've been paid by the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration, basically Charissa Tenorio's brother's administration. Since 2019, we continue to investigate, and we'll try to bring you a story tonight, actually, on that. You know, I know that every now and then we have to give you some information about what's going on with this budget session. And so there was an interesting discussion that took place today. And while I'm playing this for you, I'm going to be working on a story regarding Charissa Tenorio and comfort cuts to publish. And the people who will get our news story first will be anyone who goes on our website. And then, of course, people who are on our WhatsApp channel, who are subscribed to our WhatsApp channel. If you go to WhatsApp and you just search under channels for Kandit News, you'll find it there. It's the one with more than 1,000 subscribers. It's no one knows who. If you are a contact of mine, I will see your name as one of the people. But if you're not a contact on my phone, I will not see your name. You are completely anonymous, and only the administrators of the account, and there were only 3 of them, are allowed to post onto this. So it's not like a lot of back and forth. So if you wanted a place to receive candidates, and the WhatsApp chat will have everything. So our Facebook has the live shows, the video editorials, the cat and dog stuff, the GoFundMe stuff, the birthdays, the obituaries, things like that, right? So Facebook has more of the social interaction. And we also will put our news stories onto Facebook. Instagram has the least out of all of our content. They'll have most of our social stuff, but it's not easy to put our news stuff or our editorials on there, or even opinions, because they go beyond a certain character count. But our website is fully dedicated to hard news, investigative reports, editorial, and opinion content. But it's our WhatsApp that has all of that. So everything that you see on all of the platforms goes into WhatsApp and more. Like, there are things like traffic updates that we get from Guam Police Department that we post only onto the WhatsApp so that we don't clutter the other platforms. And so, yeah. Anyway, so while I'm playing this this piece from the legislature that happened earlier today, it's GVB's presentation on the economic and fiscal outlook that they have. Hi, Jerry. Hi, Juanita. Hi, Steve and Liz. I'll be working on this story regarding comfort cuts, and the public auditor will publish that onto our website, and then it'll be noticed on our WhatsApp channel. And then, if I'm not too tired by that time, I'll go live again to discuss that in further detail. So, without further ado, here is the Guam Legislature earlier today. And in the Committee of the Whole, in the budget session, where they received this presentation by Guam Visitors Bureau.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any unknown information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Okay. Mr. Chair, John, you may proceed.
Please be seated, and I now recognize former Senator Regine Biscoli, and President of the Guam Visitors Bureau, to make an opening statement.
Sidus Masi, Mr. Chair, and Hafiday to all of the members of Imena Chantay Otu na Legislature in Guahan. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be before you today to provide information and have the chance to answer questions about Guam's tourism industry, our economic outlook, and how the legislature can help us. I think I just want to start off by mentioning that the next 18 months are very critical to us. Globally, airlines are facing a shortage of aircraft due to manufacturing delays, extended maintenance, and supply challenges. Destinations around the world, including our brothers and sisters in Hawaii, in Saipan, in Palau, we're all fighting for the same limited aircraft. Guam must be competitive now because the airline route destinations are really being made up, for the next month, up to 3 years in advance. I also want to mention that as a result of savings by my predecessors at GVB and the management, the staff, we've made some savings, some budget cuts, and some layoffs to be able to invest incentives for this fiscal year. Because of those efforts, Guam's monthly seat capacity out of Korea jumped from 39,000 in June of this year to over 60,000 this month in August. So with incentives, we grew the seat capacity by over 50% in just 2 months. These gains came from both new and restored routes in our key markets of Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and the Philippines. Senators, incentives are not handouts. They are performance-based agreements tied to seat capacity, tied to load factor, and route duration. I also just want to make mention of the economic impact of these decisions. Visitor spending in 2019 averaged from $560 visitors from Japan, visitors from Korea $590, and $886 from our visitors from Taiwan. So that means that even just one extra weekly flight can mean millions in annual spending. Every 70 visitors to our island supports approximately 1 local job. And I'm talking about hospitality, retail, and services. So airline routes directly generate hotel occupancy tax, gross receipts tax, and income tax revenue for Guam. Without these incentives, airlines will reduce or cancel their routes, redirecting planes to better funded destinations. And here's the reality. If we don't invest now, other destinations will. They will take their planes, they will take their visitors, and they'll take their cash and spend it somewhere else. So tourism growth will stall no matter how good our marketing is, no matter how beautiful our beaches are and how friendly our people are. If we can't get visitors here without that airlift, visitors simply cannot come. So another thing to kind of think about is with the military construction plateauing and winding down in the next few years, we really need a mature industry like tourism to step up and fill that economic gap. We really need to be self-sustaining. We can't continue to rely on the federal government and military spending to get us out of tough situations. We need to rely on ourselves. And just in closing, and we'll go to a few slides so I can illustrate a couple points, the $11 million we're asking for is not an expense or a handout. It's a strategic investment in Guam's economic stability and our growth. So senators, I know that you're faced with a lot of difficult decisions and competing priorities. I've been there. The choice is simple. Secure our airlift now or risk losing the routes, the visitors, and the revenue that continue to sustain our island. Investing in tourism means that we'll have a return on that investment to fund our very important priorities of education, safety, health, and so many others that you've been hearing about over the last few weeks. So if I could just start with the presentation, and then we'll go to questions as the chair had mentioned. So this is FY26 Tourism Arrival Plan. Next slide. I want to emphasize why we're here. The request is 11.1 million, next, in various temporary airline incentives. I'm emphasizing that they're temporary, and I'll explain why. A big reason why we're here is just the very volatile exchange rate. Many of you have heard just up and down with the Japanese yen and the Korean won. We're also facing issues with increasing fuel costs and challenges with aircraft shortage and just global competition in general. And so this is a snapshot of our current situation and challenges. The expected return from this $11.1 million investment includes additional annual arrivals of over 329,000 PAX, an increase in economic impact at $640 million, additional 600 jobs supported by this investment, and an additional $166 million in taxes. Next slide. I also just want to paint the picture of where we are today. Many of you know Guam was hit with a perfect storm. Shortly after COVID, we were hit with Typhoon Mawar, just as arrivals were starting to pick up. We had the merger of Korean Airlines and Asiana Airlines that is still going on. The Korean government required carriers and their low-cost carriers to halt routes to be fair to other carriers. So in addition to that, we had the declaration of martial law in South Korea that resulted in, as I mentioned, weakened won against the US dollar, in addition to the weakened Japanese yen, making Guam much more expensive for folks to travel here, and then also, unaffordable landing fees. And the airport is here to kind of give a little bit more information about that. We also did not anticipate the accident involving 2 different Korean carriers, resulting in the loss of lives and loss of aircraft. And then lastly, just want to point out the delay of craft delivery. This is not just an airplane specific problem. This supply is not just equipment, it's also a labor supply issue. So labor supply issue in mechanical and manufacturing skilled jobs. So this is not unique to Guam, but we feel the effects arguably more than other destinations. Next slide. We want to present facts and numbers, but please don't take my word for it. This source is Oxford Economics, and this is a preliminary estimates of the economic report from 2024. We're expecting the final report in the next few weeks, which we'll be happy to share with all of you. Some numbers to note: 1.158 billion in direct traveler demand. So that's how much folks are spending to get here and what they're spending while they're on island. 1.439 billion in total economic impact that's added to the Guam GDP. We're supporting 13,975 jobs generated and supported. So we're talking about our housekeeping, tour operators, bus drivers, wait staff, maintenance workers, laundry services, utilities. A strong tourism industry really lifts all boats. And then $374 million in taxes generated. Next slide. Just on a macro level, we're looking at 2019 arrivals at 1.6 million, which resulted in a direct traveler demand of what you're seeing there, $1.9 billion. And in 2019, the total income taxes generated was about 252 million. With your help, we're looking at increasing those arrivals from last year to about just over 1 million visitors. And with your help, we're hoping to realize 1.6 billion in traveler demand and 506 million in income taxes generated. Without your help, we stand to lose 328,000 PAX, which results in 515 million in direct traveler demand, 6,000 jobs potentially supported, and a loss of 166 million in income taxes generated. Next. So you can see that delta right at the bottom there. Next slide. As I quickly mentioned in my opening, if we don't invest, you'll see the 3-legged income stool in 2018. It's pretty even with other income, military spending, and then the tourism revenue in blue. But from 2018 to 2019, again, pretty even distribution across all three sectors. The black line that you see there is the revenue base that GovGuam is surviving on. These figures shown are diagrammatic, but it's really to illustrate that MilCon spending will plateau in the next few years and eventually drop off. We cannot continue to rely on the federal government and military spending. We need to take steps today to invest in our future and be self-sustaining. Next slide. The only mature industry with the infrastructure ready to fill this void today is tourism. Tourism is Guam's proven path to prosperity. And we urge you again to invest now and build for the future. We have an opportunity before us to be self-sustaining. And the investment that we make now has been proven. It is not gambling. It is not a buyout. We have the load factors to support this. We have the demand across our markets. If tourism really is our #1 economic driver, then we need to be united in our leadership here and make the necessary investment today so that we can fund our other priority areas. Next slide. This is the 2025 original forecast. We're finding ourselves in between the conservative and moderate estimates. So all of the different markets you see up there are primary markets of Japan, Korea, the United States, Philippines, Taiwan, and then all the others. And you can see we've laid it out: conservative, moderate, and optimistic. This forecast is reevaluated on a quarterly basis. And our current projection for fiscal year 25 is about 785,000. And you'll see for the months of October through May, we're just above 95% of that goal. Next slide. So we're at 95% of the goal. Projected arrivals are in blue here, with actual represented by those orange bars. And up to the month of June, which we have for arrivals, our team is working on finalizing the July numbers now. But we're looking at June over July actuals, and that's depicted here, and an increase in July, August, and September. So as I mentioned, GVB was able to take some of the savings in previous fiscal years and direct it towards FY25 airline incentives. And so in the next slide, we'll show you the airline incentive strategy for Korea. This has been a three-prong approach that we've taken with our airlines. That includes co-op promotions, some of which are listed here. There's just not enough room to list all of the things that we're doing, but also load factor program and a turnaround support program, which we've implemented. So the co-op promotion, again, we just listed a few of them. Many of these our team has executed in Korea, and maybe many of you have seen the recent promo out of Korea for our night flight where kids fly free. So early numbers from that program are coming in. They look really good. The market has been very receptive to that. And I just want to move on to the next one, load factor program. So this load factor just indicates how full the plane is. So if we say it's 85% load factor, that means 85% of the seats are filled. And this load factor program was actually a very small amount of incentives that we gave to airlines to incentivize them to work with us, to promote Guam, and to fill the seats. Next slide, let's take a look at how they responded. So in November of last year, there was an air service mission including our partners at the airport and Governor Luliang Guerrero. Next. And then next, in January, you can see that Korean Airlines added additional seats with the incentive just following that air service mission. So we did it again in April. We had an air service mission. Ricky Hernandez from the airport and I were out there. We met with airlines and travel agents, and the market responded in kind. Next. In May, we were at 31,000 seats. In August, they added seats for a total of almost 61,000. So we know that these programs work. Guam has seen a rapid response to these airline incentives as demonstrated in this graph. Next. As seat capacity increases, load factors remain high in Korea. So we'll take a look at Korea and we'll take a look at Japan. But 85% of seat capacity in April is rounded out to about 25K visitors coming. And if we look at the seat capacity that we have now, we're looking at 85% of 60,000 is about 51,000 visitors. So again, for Korea, the situation is if we have seats, we'll have the visitors. Korea, Philippines, Taiwan, they all enjoy great load factors. Next slide. While Korea is a seat capacity issue, Japan's a little bit different. We've had to go after free and independent travelers in Japan. T-Way has added service out of Osaka just recently, and that market has a very strong educational tourism sector. We're building the desire to travel abroad in all sectors of Japan and working with our travel agencies and airlines for co-ops, for traditional groups, but reaching out to the FITs through social media and other promotions. We're really trying to do everything we possibly can to be as noisy as we can in a very noisy market. But Japan is a demand problem, and we'll discuss that a little bit more when we talk about our FY26 plan. Next. I just want to give a little bit of background about what other folks are doing. So airline incentives globally, they are necessary and they are common. The difference is how and what is being paid out. So, for example, if somebody wants to travel to Bangkok, Thailand, or Koh Samui versus Guam, Thailand is offering 95% off of their landing fees for new destinations. Hong Kong offers a range of 10,000 to 20,000 Hong Kong dollars per trip for new routes. The city of Denver offers an incentive for new carriers at $7 million for unserved routes in Asia over a 2-year term. And why I mention Denver is because a long-haul destination is favorable for airlines. They can do 1 trip to Denver, or they can do 2 trips to Guam, but they'll probably make a lot more on the Denver long haul than they will for us. So that's still considered a competitor because we're fighting, again, for the same limited craft and equipment. And then some airports and destinations are offering incentives and marketing funds, such as LAX and SWF out of New York. Next, this is our proposed framework. So from the priority to low season when demand is weakest, we're trying to focus our efforts there in Q1 and Q3, but we want to be flexible and give ourselves some options. We also want to be extremely open and transparent with you. Many people are watching, senators, including our competitors and our airlines. So we ask for your cooperation. We don't want to lose negotiating power by disclosing so much on the floor here. We want to ask for your opportunity to leverage and get the best deal and negotiate the best deal for the people of Guam. And we don't want to lose negotiating power during these conversations with our airlines. So again, this will be for incremental and new service only. It'll be above the defined 2025 baseline, which we'll show you. And again, applicable to scheduled and charter flights, and the application must be received by GVB before the start of service. And again, as always, subject to availability of funds, and that's where you all come in. And then just want to quickly show you FY26 for Korea. This is our current baseline of flights. Our recovery plan target is 637,000, and with your help, we're hoping to reach 525. This would be a direct air service subsidy. It would allow us to make good on our airport commitment to Korean carriers. And the recommended supplemental budget is 5.4 million. Next slide for Japan. This is our current baseline out of Japan. Again, the recovery target is 304, and our current arrivals baseline is 302, so just shy of our recovery plan target. We're looking at direct air service subsidies, securing a low-cost carrier in the market, and I just want to point out, in fiscal year 2019, Japan's budget was $8 million. This year, we're making do with $4.4 million. So we're asking for a recommended supplemental budget for Japan at $5.7 million. Next, We showed this slide before, but I just really want to try to bring it home. We are imploring your help to move us forward. The difference is clear. It's about 300,000 packs, which equates to 6,000 jobs supported and $166 million in tax revenue. Last slide. This is really an investment decision. Assuming conservative visitor spending at $500 and a spending multiplier of 1.2, we're imploring your help. We've tapped into our reserve funds and cut certain things for the FY25 incentives, but we've shown that they work. Without incentives, the number could actually be much lower. And I just want to maybe turn it over to my Vice President, Jerry Paris, for any additional comments, and folks from the airport as well. Sidus Masi.
Thank you very much, Regine. I just want to emphasize a couple points. The first point is we need about 1 million visitors each year on Guam for the institutional capacity of our businesses to remain economically viable. We're about $300,000 or $400,000 short of that we need to make up. The second point is really it's a matter of fiscal priority. We either take the budget and distribute it to revenue-consuming entities or leverage the $11 million with us, and we can produce revenues. The $11 million just in the macro level would generate about $300 million into the local economy, and you can extrapolate taxes from that. So I just wanted to kind of like summarize those 2 points.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of this body. From the airport's perspective, of course, we're very supportive of the appropriations toward the Guam Visitors Bureau, incentives. And of course, as the airport, we are able to take advantage of those visitors that arrive. Although our forecasts have not come in based on our fiscal year 2025 budget, we look forward to increased in-plane passengers for next fiscal year if this appropriation can stand and these incentives could be provided to ensure that we increase the potential for next fiscal year. But that's all from the airport at this moment. Thanks.
Sidus Masi and Mr. Perez and Mr. Ricky, you've already introduced yourself, so I want the rest of the panel to introduce themselves, and we'll start with the senators. 1 round, 5 minutes. So the rest of the panel, please introduce yourself.
Daphne Shimizu. I'm the comptroller from the Guam International Airport Authority. Thank you.
Test. Hafa Senators, my name is Rutger Mullen, Financial Controller for GVB.
Hafa, my name is Nadine Leon Guerrero. I'm the Director of Global Marketing with the Guam Visitors Bureau.
Hafa, I'm Frank Santos, the consultant for the Guam Airport.
Speaker Blas, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and Senator, thank you very much for the presentation. It was very well put together. There is, in one of your presentations, your slides here, that says that you want to make good on a commitment from the airport. And can you just expound a little bit more on what that commitment is? Because, I mean, other than your GVB thing, it took a little bit of a left turn when you said airport commitment.
Sure. There have been some conversations, and thank you, Speaker, for the opportunity to answer. There have been some conversations back and forth about this, I think, in the media, and then also in a hearing earlier. So I just want to give an opportunity, and then also Ricky and his team can respond. So before I came on board in November, the governor and members of the airport and members of GVB went out to do some of these air service missions in our markets, and I think there may have been some miscommunication about up to 50% off in landing fees. That was, I guess, received by a lot of our airline partners as 50% off, when it should have been communicated very clearly up to 50% off. But that's water under the bridge. We really want to be able to move forward as Team Guam, because when we go out on these missions, they're not looking at Ricky as the airport and me and GVB. They're looking at Team Guam. And so whatever we need to do to step up and make good on those commitments, I know that Ricky and his team are also bound by a lot of FAA regulations that don't necessarily apply to the Visitors Bureau. So it makes more sense to be able for us to cover on that. But I'll have Ricky respond.
Yeah, thanks, Speaker, and thanks, Senator Regine. Yeah, so we've been working closely with Guam Visitors Bureau to meet that expectation. Although our program, of course, at the airport is restricted by FAA regulations on revenue use and the ability to be able to provide incentives for increased capacity, which is a new FAA policy that has not ever been allowed before. The airport took it upon ourselves to adjust the policy and requested our board to be able to approve those adjustments to our air carrier incentive program, which is called an Air Service Development Incentive Program. And so this adjusted FAA policy allowed us to provide incentives for significant increase in capacity. And so as we looked at those internally, of course, usually our air carrier incentive program prioritizes new airlines or unserved routes. That is our typical program. But with the change in the policy, it allowed for increase or significant increase in frequency or capacity. And so as we prioritized the up to 50%, we looked at unserved routes at being at 50%. And so we applied that to routes such as Taipei, which was a completely unserved route. When we look at Incheon, of course, there were multiple daily flights, and coupled that with our, of course, enplanements forecast being about 250,000 less than what was forecasted for this fiscal year, determined that 30% was applicable for the Incheon route because it was not unserved completely because, of course, we had daily flights, but that it was, we considered it underserved because there was high load factor, meaning that there's more demand for that flight, for those flights. And so looking at taking all that into consideration and working with GVB to try to meet that expectation of 50%, we've been able to kind of communicate that to airlines. And you know, this program that we've provided is very successful. Airlines have been using, and we've been providing, I think an estimated, if we look at it through the end of the fiscal year, approximately 1.1 million estimated in incentives. That's discounts on air carrier charges. And so, you know, coupling that kind of basically incentive and with the reduction in our in-plane passengers by about 200,000 from the forecast, we found that that was a reasonable amount that we could, quote, kind of absorb because we've been reducing costs and reducing debt service this fiscal year. We're looking at, you know, working with GVB, of course, to see if we can fill that expectation, at least through the end of the calendar year. So we're still approving those incentives through the end of the calendar year, December. But because we don't have a lot of flexibility next fiscal year, we're committing to at least do the first quarter of next fiscal year through December at those rates. And then we have to readjust because, of course, our revenues are not coming in as expected because we're about 200,000+ under our forecast for this fiscal year. And we'll have to reevaluate that as we start seeing this uptick in Korean carrier arrivals. So, you know, with the airport, of course, we're not where we used to be before the pandemic. But of course, certainly with these funds, it'll help get us closer to that, at least for the Korean market, which is the market that appears to be recovering at a better rate than the Japanese market. So I hope that answers your question, Speaker.
Not to some degree, it does answer the question. So am I to take it? So you said that there was a meeting in November, and unfortunately there was some miscommunication in what was going to be relayed. Two questions, actually. First off, as a result of that meeting, is there any of this money, or how much, how we were trying to resolve this miscommunication, and how does this money play into, how does your ask play into into this resolution?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so in our discussions with GVB, of course, that additional 20%, the value of that, which is variable because it just depends on the number of flights, the number of passengers on a plane, because our rates vary between those metrics. That we would be communicating with GVB as to what those numbers would be as they become actuals, because we do have estimates of potential flights that are coming in, load factors, and how that would impact or be estimated for that 20% expectation. So, as those numbers come in, I think that's where we'll be communicating with GVB, as well as the airline, of course, to see how they could, of course, avail of the remaining 20%. The airport cannot pay an airline an incentive or a subsidy. That's against Federal Aviation Administration regulations and policies. All we can do is provide a discount on fees. And so we cannot cut an actual check to an airline for an incentive. That is against revenue use policies. So GVB has a lot of flexibility with that because they don't fall under the FAA. And so providing incentives through GVB is probably a more nimble, flexible way to determine where incentive dollars can go. But that's how we've decided, or at least thought of meeting that expectations of some of the airlines.
How much has this miscommunicated cost us already since November? When did the plan go into effect?
Yeah, I think there was one airline that had flown through that period, and for that portion, the 20% would be about, because we have actual numbers for that, is about 188,000 for that period, where Jin Air flew from December through March.
Okay, so as part of is part of your $10 million ask to recover that money, or are we just going to write that off?
Yes, it's part of the 11.1.
Okay. Now, speaking of the 11.1, and I saw breakdown as to what you intend to use it for, but I'm more interested in how the money is going to be broken down. Do you have that?
So, as I mentioned, the current tourism market is highly competitive due to the limited availability of crafts, right? So other markets like Thailand, Hong Kong, and many of our competitors are dedicating significant amount of funds to these incentive programs to attract airlines. So we want to be as transparent and open as possible, but we also don't want to signal what we have in the kitty to all of any competitors or other airlines that might be watching. So we're really cautious about losing that negotiating leverage and disclosing too much information that could be used by them. We're happy to break it down by market and to let you know what some of the programs are, but we're imploring the body to give us the flexibility. And we also want to be, we're committed to be transparent, and we're eager to share all of the incentive details with you once these contracts are signed, and to come in and have informational hearings. And I've also, reached out to the auditor to make sure that we're, just doing the best we can with the people's money and making sure that we're transparent, open, and accountable for all of those things, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Well, although I still have time, Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and yield the rest of my time, and I'll wait for the second round. Okay? Thank you very much.
Yes, Senator. So you're yielding it back to the chair because we're not going to transfer that time.
That's no problem.
Yeah, guys. Senator Gumatato, you may proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for being with us this afternoon. I just want to have a few questions. This is more operationally. When we think about the budget and we think about especially the work in Korea, it was my understanding about some of that work in Korea. Is there any exemption on value-added tax doing work in Korea? And if you could share with us today, do we get a refund, or how does that work back to the Guam Visitors Bureau, maybe to put back into operations?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Senator. So a little bit different in Korea and a little bit different in Japan, but I'm gonna just toss it over to maybe Nadine or Rudd because they have some of the specifics about exactly how much of that comes back to us.
Thank you.
Hi, Senator. So, yeah, thank you for the question. In terms of Korea, I believe it's within the range of 8 to 10% tax back on marketing expenses spent in Korea, right? So this year we're tracking from 360,000 to get tax back for that, and it just goes back into marketing campaigns within that market.
Okay, and then Japan as well?
Japan is roughly around 10% as well, but again, it has to be in-market expenses.
Oh, in-market.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just, and any ways that can keep those monies there and to maybe help the effort, I guess, especially with what we're doing with the airport, right? Okay, I only have one other question. It's about Korea. I guess that seems like that's the target, and
it's our largest market.
Yeah, at this point. And are we marketing more for them this year? Is that the commitment? I know that during the confirmation hearing, I think it was your board member, Mr. Ho, mentioned. I guess we're going all in on Korea. Is that? I guess it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's bad. I just want to get confirmation. Are we putting all of our effort or more effort into Korea?
I wouldn't say more effort. We've put a significant amount of effort into Korea. It is our main market. And what we're seeing there is a little bit of a different situation, as I mentioned, than we're seeing in Japan. So as seat capacity increases, we're seeing the load factors right up there to support that. But there's a number of other challenges happening in Korea. As I mentioned, the merger is a really big one. So you're seeing two mammoth full-service carriers of Korean and Asiana coming together. And then their subsidiaries, they have low-cost carriers of, I believe it's Jin, Air Seoul, and Air Busan. Is that correct, Nate? Okay. Those three all coming together. So that's going to have a tremendous capacity for those carriers to be working very closely together to provide a schedule for Guam that could even mean kind of like shuttle service. So every 2 hours on the hour, you'll have a flight to Guam, which would be incredible for us. And we've been able to demonstrate in the last few months, the last few years, some really strong load factors out of Korea. And so we just want to make sure that we're putting the requisite eggs in that basket and making good on that return for that market because it's a crucial one for us.
Right, and when I did meet with the consul, it seemed like he was, I don't want to say he was confused because that's not what he was kind of expressing with me, but I think that he's eager to want to be able to find more ways to bring more and more Korean visitors to our island. And I'm not sure if he maybe misunderstood some of our policies, but I'm hoping that, and I'm sure you speak with the consul pretty regularly. I just, again, I would encourage, if you're not, then he seems to be very reasonable to speak to and trying to get more and more of the Korean government to try to put, I guess, on their end, trying to bring more and more visitors to Guam.
It's a little bit of a challenging situation right now between their Korean Minister of Transportation. Because of the merger, there's so many things going on in the market and lots of big changes, very dramatic changes quickly. But yes, we are in communication. I've met with all of the consulates, both Korea and Japan, and then in close communication both here on Guam and in the markets with many airlines, travel agents, and all of our industry partners. Thank you, Senator.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all my questions for round one.
Senator Gumitato. Senator Burnett.
Buenas tardes to the people of Guam, and thank you to the panel for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon for this budget session. Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to ask just first if you could address some of the cons that are mentioned relative to airline incentives, and maybe just first specifically the limited effectiveness, as incentives may not always translate into long-term tourism growth or sustainable development.
Thank you, Senator Barnett. I think the key here for us really is the next 18 months. And so we're looking at all of this limited supply in craft. And so that's creating a very just a tight situation for everyone, and it's really driving this competition. And so in terms of incentives, we're really focusing on these temporary, again, performance-based incentives and making sure that they're working for the people of Guam. If those seats aren't filled, we're not paying them. That's based on a number of our different programs. And so I'm not sure what you mean in terms of cons for ineffectiveness, but in terms of the experience that we've had in FY25, they've been extremely effective.
So is this something that you anticipate we're going to have to be doing every year, providing these airline incentives?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, incentives are really not designed to be permanent. We don't want to subsidize the operations of the airline. Right. Incentives are designed basically to stimulate a particular situation, which is what we're trying to do. Hopefully, by generating enough demand that the airline can stand on their own 2 feet in terms of generated demand that comes from our marketing department.
Is there any possibility of lost revenue for the airport authority because of these airline incentives?
Well, the incentives that we're allowed to do through FAA policy does reduce revenues because we give it as a discount to fees. So there is a revenue reduction to that. And so how we are able to fund those, especially since employments are short, have been through reduction in operating costs and then also some restructuring of debt that we were able to successfully do in this fiscal year, effective this fiscal year.
So you think the reward outweighs the risk of the potential revenue loss?
It's a good question, right? From the airport's perspective, because obviously we only have one way to incentivize air carriers. Historically, we've only done, and this is because the FAA policy did not allow for this type of incentive we've been providing this year. It only provided for new airlines or new destinations. And so when you think of those are unexpected things, right? Unexpected flights. And so the FAA's policy allowed for the airports or airport sponsors like us to provide up to 2 years of an incentive. And the flexibility in terms of what that percentage is depends on what the airport is able and willing to do. And so the policy behind that, allowing 2 years, is for new airlines, of course, is because there is a large investment for a new airline to come into a new market, such as Guam. And so providing up to 2 years allows that to happen. And so, when we talk about incentives that the Guam Visitors Bureau can do, of course, they can apply that way more in many other ways to target different parts of the tourism supply chain. But for the airport, we're just restricted to what we're able to do in terms of discounting. So.
Thank you. Are you able to speak to the potential for increased airfares on other routes, as subsidies on specific routes may lead to higher airfares on other routes as airlines not receiving incentives try to recoup their losses?
From the airport's perspective, we don't necessarily take data. There's no data set for airfares that we're necessarily tracking from a financial standpoint, because airfares, of course, are driven by airline costs and their projections and so forth, because there's so many things that play into airline costs. Airport rates and charges, on average, around the world, the rates that we charge is, the average is about 5% in the world of an airfare cost. And so much of an airfare cost, you're talking about fuel costs, which is the largest, and then of course personnel that have to run everything, operations that's related to safety and security, ground handlers. Of course, new airlines have to come in and say, what ground handlers, what private companies do you have at the airport to be able to take in aircraft and service it and fuel it and so forth. So there's a lot of costs that go into airfare prices and other considerations. But from the airport's perspective, we are of course sensitive to that. We want to make sure that there is service providers at the airport that have a breadth of knowledge of airport operations, and we want to make sure that there's competition, that airlines can choose between what ground handlers, what service providers there are, and so forth. So.
Thank you for that. I kind of asked just because I know that some studies show that the incentives create unfair competition and may potentially lead to increased airfares for local residents. And that's why I asked that question is I'm just concerned, and maybe you can elaborate on this, if providing these incentives for the tourist markets will impact other airlines that serve locals or maybe even residents on these same flights. Are they, what's the impact there?
So, Senator, I think it's important that we kind of dispel that rumor of, increased flight or cost from one side to the other. It's very important for airlines to be making money both ways. And so when we're encouraging folks to come visit Guam, we're also encouraging our local residents to visit Taipei, to visit Osaka, to visit all of these routes that we have service on. It's a great opportunity for the people of Guam, and we want to keep that flowing both ways. But also, just in answer to your previous question, the shortage is expected to last until about the end of 2027. And so we're really grateful for the support and the commitment of this body. And if we need help, we're going to come back to you and ask for it. And we hope that you'll be receptive to that, because already we've demonstrated what we're able to do with the limited funds that we've put into these incentive programs and the tremendous return that it's made back for the people of Guam. And I also just want to point out to Ricky's point about the landing fees, the airport operating budget is divided by arrivals, or as Ricky was mentioning, enplanements, right? So it used to be $18 for landing fees. Today, it's about $34. And so if we're working together to try to increase the capacity of the airport and get more people flying through the Antonio B. Juan-Pat International Airport, it's going to serve us all in helping them to decrease their fees, and then that'll continue to entice airlines to fly. And so it's a virtuous circle that we're trying very hard to claw our way back and to maintain so that we can provide all these incredible benefits to the people of Guam. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Could you elaborate a little more on the presentation? There was a category, the traveler demand. Maybe just explain for the public watching and for myself as well, what goes into that and how we come up with that number?
Sure. Thank you so much. And it's probably slide 4, if we could get it back up. And this is an economic impact report. We just received these preliminary numbers, and the source is Oxford Economics. And so this is their preliminary estimates from the economic report from 2024. So as you're looking at the bottom left-hand corner, 1.15 billion in direct traveler demand. So that number calculates how much a traveler will spend to get here and how much they spend while they're on island. So that's a tremendous amount of money. And then the 1.43 billion in total economic impact, that's added to the Guam GDP. So that is total economic impact there. And then you're looking at close to 14,000 total jobs generated and supported. And, we're joined by some folks in the hall here. Many of them are employees of our tourism industry, and we really want to thank them for participating and for being here to listen and to support us. So these are the folks that are employed by our industry. And then also, as I mentioned, $374 million in taxes generated. So that's, hotel occupancy tax, income tax.
Sorry, Dispensa, on the direct traveler demand, you said this figure is made up of all the spending that's done to get here. Is that like just airline airfares? Or?
So airfare, and feel free to chime in, but airfare, accommodations, ground transportation, any restaurants that they might eat at when they're here, jewelry that they might purchase from local vendors at the Tuman night market,
It's their total spend.
Correct.
So even the bus to get to their airport, the airline ticket, whatnot, all the way to Guam and back.
Thank you. In your opening, you talked about...
Really, it's a reflection of...
Oh, yes, Jerry, go ahead.
It's a reflection of direct, indirect, and induced demand.
The 3 I's. All right. In your opening, you talked about, I think I heard budget cuts and layoffs. Are you able to elaborate on that a little bit more? And how you feel those cuts and layoffs are I guess, making your operations more sustainable moving forward?
So these are tough times, and these are actually decisions that were made prior to my tenure. So these are a result of savings by GVB, some cuts, some layoffs, and so I'll let Rudd and Nadine speak a little bit about that. But we're really trying to look internally at some of the savings, and try to have it affect us first before we go and ask for more. So that was kind of our strategy, and that's what we were able to do for FY25. But we're just in a position now where we can't afford it, and we're not getting our allocation. The TAF is tapped out. So go ahead, Rudd.
Yeah, hi, Senator. So in terms of cost savings, we've saved roughly $500,000 through decisions made by management at the time to...
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you bring it closer, please?
Sorry. So in terms of cost savings, it was roughly $500,000. Management at that time decided to reduce costs and make operations more efficient. Unfortunately, that also resulted into some employees being let go. But yeah, that was a decision.
What types of positions are you talking about? Because I haven't heard about this.
These are destination maintenance staff. They just looked at the current scope of work and found ways to make it work.
You mean maintenance staff, like for cleaning up the parks or?
Yeah, most of these are LTAs.
Okay. I guess that kind of leads to my next question. And just talking with some of my friends in the tourism industry, we got into this maybe a philosophical debate about the airline incentives and how you had said, Madam President, that this is really focusing on the next 18 months. And the thought I got from some of these tourism stakeholders was, what about if we took this $11 million and reinvested it into destination maintenance, destination management, in terms of providing like grants to tourism businesses and stakeholders. And I guess the train of thought in this discussion was that this would be more of a long-term fix to, beautify our island and make sure that we have a destination that when people come here, they go back, they do the good reviews, as opposed to short-term airline incentives where people come and, we're going to get the bad reviews and stuff like that. So I guess, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I guess I am asking you to defend this proposal against the thought that maybe this $11 million would be more meaningfully invested into grants to businesses so that they can do that destination maintenance and destination upgrading. Because this kind of troubles me that we're laying off maintenance staff, but investing, or we're making the ask to invest in these airline incentives when there's definitely a lot of work that can be done for our island as a destination. Thank you.
Absolutely, Senator. I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I think we can do more on all fronts. And I'm a firm believer we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but we're not going to be able to wow them with our marketing and our beautiful island if we're not able to get them here. And so that's, really the crux of this whole discussion is tourism growth will stall if we don't give it this much needed boost. And we have done a tremendous amount of work for destination management, both in Tumon and beyond to many of our villages. I have a long listing of all of the sponsorships and community groups that we...
Yeah, I'm actually going to call BS on a whole lot of those the things that GVB was claiming. But honestly, I don't care. All I care about is the corruption stuff going, the stuff that we are covering. I just published our story about the Comfort Cuts contract and how Public Auditor BJ Cruz has confirmed that he will be making a referral to his auditors to include a review of Comfort Cuts contracts in the 2026 audit plan for the Office of Accountability. You can find that story at kanditnews.com. I'm going to end this live stream. I really don't think you don't want to see the rest of this here. If you want to see the rest of this legislative session where they talked about all this tourism stuff and the economy and it's the same stuff every single year. And let me just, if the formula, hold on. Sorry, my dogs had a fight. Yeah, sorry about that. Worst possible timing for them to have a fight. So if the formula for, and I'll just be real quick about this because honestly I don't care, but if the formula for getting us 6,000 more jobs and $1.6 billion in more economic activity and what was it, $166 million in additional revenue, if the formula for getting all of that stuff was just to invest $11 million in an airline incentive, why don't we invest $22 million in an airline incentive so we can have 12,000 new jobs and $320 million in additional revenue and $2 billion in additional economic activity? It just doesn't make sense. And I hope in your minds, when you were watching that, you were thinking the same thing. Like, all right, if an investment of $11 million is going to get us all of this, son of a gun, why don't we invest all of it? And it's because it doesn't make sense what they're saying. It's just, it sounds like utter nonsense and BS. It sounds like a scam, and it's because it probably is. And so that's why I don't put any stock in. I don't pay. And I really hope the senators aren't buying any of this BS from GVB either. Anyway, for Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. You all have a wonderful night. I'm tired. I'm not going to go live on the other thing. Maybe I'll go live on it tomorrow morning. I don't know. But it's way past my bedtime. But I love you all and God bless you. Thank you for joining me tonight.
We got that dynamite. We got that dynamite.
Find the perfect ride for you today with the New Year New Ride sales event at Guam Auto Spot. Get behind the wheel of the 2024 Outlander Sport starting at just $22,995 or only $156 per paycheck. Visit GuamAutospot.com or call 671-478-AUTO.
Buy fuel, get Wendy's. Drive to your nearest 76 Circle K and get free Wendy's. Yes, free. Fuel up with $30 and score your choice of a 6-piece crispy chicken nuggets or a juicy junior cheeseburger deluxe. Fresh, hot, and packed with flavor. But hurry, quantities are limited and this delicious deal won't last long. So hit the road to 76 Circle K, fuel up, and get Wendy's free before it's gone.